Hey guys, welcome back to Musings of Mavry. I'm your host Mavry, where today we're going to be looking at Goblin Slayer episode 9. So, last time where we left off, I guess you could say it was kind of like a filler episode. Goblin Slayer and his party had just gotten back from a pretty harrowing experience within the, I guess, sewers, dungeons, underground city, where they almost got completely wiped out. And then we see how Goblin Slayer had some skinship with the Sword Maiden and Priestess to get back to full vitality. And I'm assuming in this episode they're going to resume their adventures into the underground city. Well, last episode we already saw them finish their fun times and go back into, the dungeon or whatever you want to call it. Where, last time I forgot to mention, so the creature that we encountered, or actually they encountered, was a beholder. So I don't know why it's on mind to mention that, because that thing is iconic, and in a lot of fantasy games, it's just, I guess it was so, it's just too common nowadays that it's not even worth commenting on. But, so that was a beholder, and we already know that this game, or not this game, this anime likes to make a lot of references to Dungeons and Dragons, so it was to be expected. But anyways, let's see how they resolve, or maybe not resolve, but how they continue the plot within this episode. And I'm wondering if maybe we can get some kind of explanation as to what exactly is happening and why is the Sword Maiden so damn cryptic. Alright, so let us begin in 3, 2, 1, play. So I guess this is directly right after they killed that beholder? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Ooh, goblins. On the moon? Okay. Well, I gotta say, that's a pretty shitty guard. It's just a beholder. You would expect something so crucial as a teleportation device for your reinforcements to be better guarded, right? Oh, more goblins. This is kind of like a similar situation to last time, right? Only one entrance and one exit. Huh? Okay. Let me just skip this opening and I'll see you guys in a second. And we are back. Another barricade? Alright. She has some past trauma. Hmm. 'Only one?' 'In this kind of... I personally haven't played D&D before, but of the few sessions that I have seen of it, it seems that magic is pretty unforgiving in... Like, being a spellcaster is pretty unforgiving in D&D. It's much more limited than what you would normally expect from lots of other kinds of fantasy works or games. So like in this case, even though they have 3 spellcasters, they each only have 1 or 2 or 3 spells left, right? Again, still explanation of what exactly he's counting for. Oh, they have archers as well. Ooh, nice one. Okay, and here's the champion. Only one left. It's a good thing that the spellcasters within this setting also have some melee compatibility. What? I thought he was gonna just let gravity do its work. Balling control. Bring the house down, eh? Oh, so that's why. It's using the mirror as a shield. Well, that was random. Hmm. Are we finally gonna get some answers? There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of fishy things here. A familiar.
死体をそのままにするのもゴブリンの手口ではない。
True.
あれらは獲物を巣穴に連れ帰りもてあそび。
Wow, we actually see what happened to Sword Maiden.
あの鏡を使って何か企んでいた。例の魔人とやらの手勢です。黒幕はもうこの世にはいません。私たちとは全く無縁なところで勇者様に。
The hero?
だってゴブリンに襲われればきっと私泣いてしまいますもの。地下での動きは聞いていました。私への復讐を企てていることも察しがつきました。それならばどうとでも。でも誰に言えましょう。剣の乙女と呼ばれた英雄がどうかゴブリンから私を助けて。
Okay, so she still has trauma from goblins, so she's not going to be able to face them.
私をどうするおつもり。
どうもしない。ゴブリンではないからな。
だから理由をお聞きにならないのですね。
話すなら聞こう。
分かってもらいたかった。怖くて辛くて痛くて恐ろしくて、そんなことがこの世にあって、そういうことをする者がこの世界にはいる。分かってもらいたかっただけです。結局誰も分かってはくださいませんでしたが、あの天意の鏡を差し上げてもよいのです。あなたになら、あなたならきっと分かってくださると。
あれは捨てた。
え、古代の遺物、値千金の財宝ですのよ。
他のゴブリンが使い方を学習せんとも限らん。鏡面をコンクリートで固め沈めた。なんだ、白いのにはいい寝床だろう。
That white thing.
本当に面白いお方。タガが外れているのね、きっと。
かもしれん。
ねえ、私からも聞いてよろしい？
答えられるとは限らん。
高2を退治して何か変わりました？
何か？
勇者様が魔人を滅ぼせば世界はきっと救われるのでしょう。でも高2に襲われた15歳の少女が今も救いを求めていたとしても、そんなことを気にかけてくれる人はどこにもいない。高2を退治しても何にも変わらないじゃありませんか。
それでいいと俺は思っている。お前はひどい目にあったと言ったな。はい。俺はそれを見ていた。最初から最後まで。
でしたよ。
だからお前の気持ちはわからない。
私を助けてくださらないのですか？
ああ。だがゴブリンが出たなら俺を呼べ。ゴブリンは俺が殺してやる。
夢の中でも
ああ。
来てくれるのですか？
ああ。俺はゴブリンスレイヤーだからな。
Yeah, he is.
私はあなたをお慕い申し上げております。
That is quite tragic in its own way.
終わった。
and so they're going back.
天意の鏡はちと惜しい気もしましたがな。価値ある資料、異端を滅ぼし功徳も詰めた。節操としても十二分。問題なしですな。わしはこの金でうまいもんで報えりゃ文句はないがの。
ドワーフは食い意地ばっかりよね。
Still resting. Wait.
お疲れ様でした。ゴブリンスレイヤーさん。
帰ったら。
もう起きていたなら起きてるって言ってくださいよ。
今起きたところだ。
鉄兜をかぶっているからわからないんです。
そうか。
I wonder if anybody's gonna get him to be going to be able to get him to take his mask off, helmet off.
食いたいなら構わん。牛乳を使う。おお、甘露よ。
すみません。何でもありません。
おう、神切り丸。迷信ことでドワーフを頼らんでどうする。そうなのか。さあ、たまや。
Yeah, Goblin Slayer is softening up.
どう作るんじゃ。こうするらしい。子鬼殺し殿。円の動きとなれば足踏み車と連動させれば能率的かと。なるほど。確かに。
ゴブリンスレイヤーさん、私ももらっていいですよね。
構わん。
Come on, you know you want it.
もらうけど。
そうか。失敗しても蹴るなよ。
はいはい、わかったわよ。蹴らない。蹴らないからちょうだい。それでいい？
ああ。
Well, that was a nice little episode. I'm gonna go back through and rewatch some of the dialogue. I'll see you guys in a minute. And that was Goblin Slayer episode 9. So, as predicted, we went right into the action, where basically this time they found a gate leading to the other side where the other goblins came from. So, one thing I noticed within those few scenes is that it seems the fury where the goblins come from the Green Moon is true, right? Because during those few frames, we see how the goblins are living within that sort of realm, and also in the background of those few seconds that we see of them, we see that the red moon is actually much more prominent and larger than it is where you normally look at it from the Earth, where this Goblin Slayer and his companions are. So because of that perspective difference, it leads me to believe that yes, the goblins do reside on the Green Moon, and that is why within those few seconds we see that the Red Moon is much larger than it is down on the normal world, because probably the Green Moon is closer to the Red Moon. And at least for this might have been already explored in the light novel, but I'm just basing this based on what it is here that we're shown in the anime. And that's going to be my theory for now, that the goblins do come from the Green Moon. So that was just a quick observation along the way that I wanted to give. And then we get to basically the main conflict of this episode, right? So they, for some reason, fall into the same kind of trap twice, or maybe not even trap, but the same situation twice, where they are cornered into a room with no escape route. And, this personally, I feel like this is kind of a contrived reason for a conflict, and the reason being that, who would be dumb enough to keep on making the same mistake, like getting yourself trapped into a one-way room with only one escape without any backup plan? Like, you couldn't at least bring a teleportation scroll or a gate scroll with you as a last resort, or even, I don't know, put up some early warning guards or some traps or whatnot. Especially for Goblin Slayer, who seems to be very resourceful and uses his brain a lot. I just don't feel like this is something that would have happened to these adventurers who, yeah, basically that's it. You shouldn't fall for the same mistake twice. And here it's almost the exact same situation as the last one. So I guess it's kind of a, there needs to be conflict, right? It's just I feel like it could have been done maybe in a better way. And okay, I mentioned during the episode in regards to magic, right? So D&D magic is more usage based by per use instead of using something like mana points or magic points or MP, which a lot of most fantasy RPGs or fantasy works or fantasy games would use nowadays. And it always struck me as a very strict system because you're basically given a choice of what you can use and a very limited amount of what you can use per day. And once you use it, poof, it's gone. So, I don't know. I feel like being a spellcaster using the D&D rules is uh, it's kind of very punishing, especially against goblins, right? Goblins are, even though they're physically weak, they don't have a lot of hit points and whatnot, but it doesn't matter, right? Because the spell it doesn't scale based on how much mana or magic power you want to put into it. A fireball is just one shot of fireball. If you can use at max 3 fireballs per day, then if you use one fireball to kill each goblin, then you can only kill 3 goblins, right? So it's not like within other works where you can maybe, like, I don't know, compress the fireball, make it smaller so you use less mana and then you can regenerate mana. None of that. So at least the good thing here is that it seems, even though the dwarf and the lizard man are spellcasters, they also have very good physical or melee abilities. So they're multi-skilled in that. They can still take care of themselves even without spells. And I guess the situation in the end was resolved basically by Goblin Slayer using his brain again, right? So holding the portal upside down, facing upwards. So even though he brings down the roof and crushes everything, they won't get crushed because all the rubble will go through the gate to the other side. And again, but this just goes back to, if he is so smart and able to think of so many kinds of unorthodox ways to get out of situations, how did he get into the situation in the first place, right? So basically that was just kind of like a gripe I have with this kind of setting. Um, but this whole contrived setting, I can kind of get over because, like I said, they need some way to progress the story. Even though I might complain that it's not as well thought out, it's still it's whatever, right? It progresses the story. But what I really don't get is what exactly the Sword Maiden's problem is, if you will. Like, I get that she has trauma from the past, so she's because she was when in the past she was basically raped by the goblins, right? So she had a very bad experience with them, and due to that, she can't face goblins normally, even though she's basically a hero who killed the demon lord, but she is unable to face goblins. So I get that, right? I get that story. So she basically has PTSD from goblins, right? And yeah, it's a sad story, and she's already amazing for being able to, even after all that, still be a hero and even slay the demon lord, right? Because in the first episode, what was said was that a lot of the girls who go through this same experience, they are a shell of their former selves. They're not able to recover and obviously don't become as badass as the Sword Maiden, right? But even all that, what I don't get is, so what exactly is she apologizing for? I mean, the way that she talks with the Goblin Slayer, it almost feels like she thinks she's guilty of something. But what exactly is she guilty of? By not telling the whole story about the gate? Because we know from this episode that the alligator is basically a guardian spirit, or a guardian summon of the Sword Maiden, right? But Okay, so here's the first question. It said that it both chases adventurers away and also helps to kill goblins. So why is she chasing the adventurers away? Or more to the point, why doesn't she just put some notices up and ask the adventurers to take care of this goblin problem, right? So even though she herself cannot do it, at least the adventurers can, or I mean, as a sword maiden, you would think that she had some kind of ability to ask for assistance, even though she says that yeah, nobody believes that the sword maiden can't handle some goblins. But if you think of it from another perspective, if goblins are really so low level and the sword maiden is somebody who even killed the demon lord, then wouldn't it just been easy for her to say, "Oh, this is beneath me. Please slay these goblins for me"? Like eventually she enrolled the help of the Goblin Slayer. Why can't she have done that to the same, do the same to some and ask some other adventurers? Is she afraid that the other adventurers would go through the same situation, so she's actually protecting them? But if she's protecting them, then what does she have to apologize for, right? And even that doesn't make sense because in the end, she says that she wants people to experience the same thing that she went through. She wants people to understand how big of a problem these goblins are. But how can you do that if you're chasing away adventurers who are going down there? So, what exactly is it? Are you keeping adventurers away, or are you actually encouraging them to go down there? Like, I seriously don't get, in the end, what it is that she did. Okay, and also on the same note, who was the one, or what was the thing killing all the girls? You know, the story that she told Goblin Slayer and his companions. There being some monster going around at night killing girls and ripping their guts out and leaving them their corpse there. So was that problem taken care of? Who did that? Right? And how does that play into this whole story? Or is that something that happened a long time ago, uh, and that device itself was actually fairly recent? And even though she said that, so apparently there's another hero, right? So even though the original perpetrators, the minions of the demon lord, have been killed by another hero, but then this device is still here, and this might have been fairly recent. So I guess in that case, then the stories can kind of tie together, right? So maybe it was the demon lord's minions who were killing all those girls. But then why do that in the first place? Like, wouldn't that attract unnecessary attention? So that doesn't really make sense as well. I'm I'm not sure if this is explained better in the light novel, but so far, even after rewatching all the dialogue once again, it's still confusing the hell out of me what exactly is going on. I can get the backstory, I can see what's troubling the sword maiden, but I still don't get what exactly this whole situation is and how it came to be, right? And also, another kind of confusing part is in the end where the sword maiden says, "Why won't you understand? So why won't you save me?" And the Goblin Slayer basically says, "No, sorry, not why won't you save me? It's can you save me?" And then the Goblin Slayer basically responds, "No." But then he basically says that, okay, if goblins appear, I will kill them for you. And even in Sword Maiden's dreams, he will kill them for her. But isn't that exactly what the Sword Maiden wants and what she means by saying save her, right? Because you can't revert to the past, right? It's not like Goblin Slayer can go back in time and save her before she was traumatized by these goblins. So what she really wants is basically just some sort of protection or from some relief or someone who understands what she's going through and can tell her, yes, these goblins are bad stuff, but it's okay because I'm here, right? Well, that's basically what Goblin Slayer does, and that's why in the end, Sword Maiden is like, "Oh, you are the object of my adoration," right? So, is this simply a case of the Goblin Slayer trying to be a badass and not really conveying his communications properly, or maybe he was thinking of something else when the Sword Maiden said to save her? I don't know. I feel like the dialogue here is really confusing, but at least the way that I'm interpreting it right now is that so in the end, the Goblin Slayer does promise to save the Sword Maiden. Yeah, I think that's basically it. And on this note, like sort of on a related note, again, from the very beginning of this series, I've been saying it doesn't really make sense how people still take these goblins so lightly, right? It's not like these are isolated cases where the goblins, pillage and rape and whatnot. It's happening all the time for a long time now. So how can it be that nobody is taking these goblins seriously? I feel like there's a huge gap between that and what we actually see and what the current world setting perceives these goblins to be. Like, I can kind of get it if this is something relatively new, right? So say if goblins were only this savage for like within a year or something, then okay, maybe people from the beginning won't take them so seriously. But when it's already happening for a long time now, I mean, Goblin Slayer's been doing this for a long time, right? And it's not like there's no survivors at all. There are plenty of goblin attack survivors. So, and if even the Sword Maiden is coming out and saying, "Hey, this is a big problem. You guys should take notice of it," don't you guys think that somebody is going to take this more seriously? Like, when it's not like the Sword Maiden is some damsel in distress, right? This is a hero who helped kill the Demon Lord. When she says, "Please be careful of something," I expect people to respect her words. So, again, I feel like this is kind of like a contrived reason for why the Goblin Slayer exists and why people don't take goblins seriously. But in reality, if people had just 1 ounce of logic, this situation probably would not be going on for so long. Alright, so that was a kind of rant, but I really feel like there are some big, plot holes or story holes, or basically some things that I feel can be explained or explored a little bit better. Otherwise, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Okay. So I guess that's, it's kind of jumbled up and whatnot, but because I'm basically doing this in one take, and I don't want to have to go back and re-edit my words or whatnot. But okay, let's end on the lighter note, right? So my final thought for this episode is that, hey, we see the Goblin Slayer sort of lightening up. He's opening up to his companions. He's able to joke around with them, and he's not this wall of solitude anymore, right? So it seems that for the first time in who knows how long, he's finally able to get some people who understand him and get real companions. So that's a good thing, right? Because I feel like you can only take this kind of, "Ooh, I'm a badass who kills goblins, and that's my entire character." I feel like that's kind of too one-dimensional, and it'll get old real quick. So it's nice that he seems to be having some kind of character development through companions. And even, hey, maybe one day these girls will be able to convince him to stop wearing his helmet all the damn time and allow us to see his face for once so we can see his reactions, right? Although, yeah, that's probably not gonna happen if his style is so iconic. But one can dream. One can dream. Anyways, those are my conclusions for this episode. Please let me know if my ramblings, my thoughts, and my questions are answered in the light novel, or if somebody, if you out there, the viewer, has anything to comment on this situation. Let me know if there's something I missed. Let me know if the light novel explained this better, or maybe you have your own theories. So, yeah, that about concludes this episode. So that was episode 9, and it's interesting so far. I just wish things were explained a little bit more. Right. So, this has been Maverick from Musings of Maverick, and I'll see you guys next time.